Japan Makes Me Scared, a podcast to the chilling realm of Japanese horror stories. My name is Junpei, and I will invite you to the mysterious world of Kaidan, exploring spine-tingling experiences that have haunted Japan. Konbanwa minasan. Welcome back to another episode of Japan Makes Me Scared. I'm Junpei, your host, and I'm gonna share various horror, scary stories of Kaidan in this podcast. I'm actually visiting my wife's family in France, and I'd like to share one of the cultural differences I noticed here. I feel that people in France communicate quite often with strangers on the street and with people they happen to pass by. For example, if you go to a shop, you talk to the shop staff, or if something funny or annoying happens in front of you, you talk to a stranger who happens to share the experience with you. I know some people who hear this may say, well, that's just a normal thing to do. But those of you may be surprised if you ever visit Japan. At least in urban areas such as Tokyo and Yokohama, the areas where I live, it is very rare to talk to strangers. When you get on a train, you will find almost no one is talking, and even if someone's translator dressed like a samurai gets on, it will still be very difficult to find someone to make eye contact with and share a laugh with afterwards. Personally, I think both cultures have good and bad, so I can't simply say which one is better. But it's definitely an exciting experience to see the cultural differences in this way. However, here's the only thing to keep in mind. If you're on a night street in Japan, and a beautiful woman comes and asks you, "Am I pretty?" it might be better to run away immediately, because that woman could be the famous monster woman of Japanese urban legend. Alright, let's move on to the storytelling part. Episode 23, Kuchisake-Onna. First of all, let me briefly share what Kuchisake-Onna is. Kuchisake-Onna is a well-known and terrifying character in Japanese urban legends. Between 1978 and 79, the story became so popular that the whole of Japan believed it. As a result, the police were called and dispatched, students were sent away from school in groups, and the mass media often featured the story. All that mess created a huge panic that was a social problem at the time. What is the urban legend like? I will tell you that from now. There was a boy, A-kun, who was a primary school student. On that day, he went to cram school after primary school. And by the time he finished and was about to go home, it was already dark. I'm late for dinner. Let's go home soon. He was walking alone in the street at night to go back home. Then, he saw someone walking towards him from the other side of the road. The person had long black hair and wore a red coat. It appeared to be a woman, but her face was not very clear. Eventually, she approached, and just as they were about to pass each other, "Hey," she spoke to him. No one was around except him, so he thought she was talking to him. He quickly replied, "Yes." "Am I pretty?" It was a totally sudden and abrupt question. He didn't want to get involved with anyone weird, but he looked at her face reflexively. She's wearing a white mouth mask, so he could not see her entire face. But from around her eyes, he could imagine that she was probably in the beautiful category at least. Yes, I think so, he replied, not to be rude. Then she slowly took off the mask and continued to ask, "Even like this?" When he looked again at her face with the mask on, the ends of her mouth were ripped open up to her ears, as if her face was split at the center. There's a variation in Kuchisake-Onna's stories, but the most famous one is like this. What would happen if you said no to the "Am I pretty?" question? Usually, if you say no, she will cut you to death with a hidden knife-like object, so that's not the best way to deal with her. As I mentioned earlier, this urban legend emerged around 1978, and we've got some theories about what the origin of Kuchisake-Onna could be, based on the social situation of that time. So let me share some of the famous ones here. Looking at the earliest rumors of Kuchisake-Onna, there is a theory that she was originally a patient who escaped from a mental hospital. She escaped often and wandered around the area, and because she was mental, she smeared lipstick on the lower half of her face that could possibly look like a huge slit mouth and sometimes scare children around the area. Later in the 90s, as people became more aware of failed plastic surgery cases, additional theory emerged that the woman's face had been damaged as a result of plastic operation, and that she had lost her mind and become Kuchisake-Onna in the end. There is also another theory that she was the victim of a bus fall. About 10 years before the urban legend of Kuchisake-Onna spread across Japan, a major bus accident occurred on the Hida River in Gifu Prefecture in 1968. The accident by heavy rain caused 2 buses to fall into the river, resulting in the death of more than 100 people. It was probably the worst bus accident of the Japanese history. You could Google that if you want to know more details. Anyway, the thing is, a skull was later found in the river at the scene. And when it was examined, it was found that the mouth had been ripped open to the ears. From such a story, there is a theory that Kuchisake-Onna is a ghost or spirit of the person who used to own the head. Okay, the 2 theories so far were that Kuchisake-Onna was based on a real person. However, I'd like to introduce some theories that the urban legend may have been created and manipulated for certain reasons. In the 70s of Japan, when Kuchisake-Onna's story became popular, there was a boom in going to cram schools among primary school children, as the rate of students going on to high school and higher education also increased. However, cram schools were kind of expensive, and only children from rather rich families could afford them. For this reason, less well-off families lied to their children to get them to give up cram school. They were saying like, "You can't go out at night to the cram school because there's Kuchisake-Onna in the street." So the theory is that several families share this lie, spreading it through schools, among children, and eventually throughout Japan. Well, there's this theory related to the CIA conspiracy as well. Few people may now doubt that after World War II, the CIA conducted experiments of a scale and unethical nature that would be hard to believe today. One of these experiments is said to be one to understand the speed at which rumors spread and the crowd psychology that responds to them. The Avan legend of Kuchisake-Onna was used in that experiment. The theory may sound far-fetched at first, but when you think about the fact that the origin of the Avan legend is unknown, and also the rumor rapidly died down 1 year after its occurrence, it doesn't completely deny the possibility that there was some kind of artificial manipulation like that. Anyway, these are the basic theories. I know that theories can cope with the real-life problems in general, so finally, let me tell you what to do when you actually encounter Kuchisake-Onna in the street. The first method is to chant pomade 3 times. Yeah, that pomade you would imagine, oily cream you use for your hairstyling. This is said to be because a previous plastic surgery surgeon, who eventually caused her face damage, used a large amount of pomade, which has traumatized her. The chanting pomade will remind her of her past and make her stop moving for a moment, allowing us to escape. It is said that the same effect can be achieved by throwing the pomade directly at her if you have it, although such cases are rare. The second way is to throw bekuame to her. In Japan, we've got a candy called bekuame, which is made from only sugar and starch syrup. It is named after the resemblance to the processed shell of a sea turtle. This candy is said to be her favorite food, and throwing it is to allow us to escape while she's licking it madly. The last one is, in short, to be a little bit gentlemanlike and romantic. You remember when the first question, "Am I pretty?" was answered with yes? She will remove her mask to reveal her ripped mouth. After that, if you answer that she's beautiful, even with that slit mouth, then she will blush and be unable to move for a moment, during which you can escape. I know it sounds like acting cool, but love will save the world. That's what it's all about. Oh Shimai, thank you very much for listening to the story. How did you find it? Think about the late 70s. How was it like when the urban legend of Kuchisake-Onna became widespread in Japan? There were no PCs or smartphones like now, and any SNS or even internet did not exist at home. Then, when you went to school, people gossiped about it, saying like, "The guy said he saw Kuchisake-Onna yesterday at blah blah," and the teachers knew it was a lie, but the rumor spread so much that they had to send students off to school in groups, just in case. I know in Japanese kaiden, there are many degrees of scariness, but none had as much impact on people's real lives as this story, in my opinion. In the years to come, this timeless urban legend will continue to frighten people in Japan and around the world. And I can't deny that I'm kind of hoping that's what will happen. Anyway, do you have any theories on this story as well? I've got a Discord channel where anybody can join and share thoughts and theories. Of course, I'll be there as well. I'm gonna leave the link in the description, so please join and enjoy the interaction if you would. This podcast, Japan Makes Me Scared, is available on almost all popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or Amazon Music. Also, if you push the follow button on the app of your choice. First of all, for me, it will be a huge support and motivation, and for you, you will not miss notifications for future episodes. So please consider following my podcast as well. Alright, we're getting close to the end, so let me say one thing. ありがとうございます again for listening to my podcast, Japan Makes Me Scared, and sayonara for more children thrills next time. Bye!